So Amaris Williams reportedly planning to enter the portal. I think that's almost symbolic of what Alex Golesh is trying to move on from.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Jamonta Waller reportedly entering the portal, according to Hayes Fawcett of On3. Same with Amaris Williams. Amaris Williams, I think, more impactful, so we will start there. And I think everything about the Amaris Williams saga at Auburn, it kind of sums up, in my opinion, and Justin Hokanson of On3 did an outstanding job, an outstanding article kind of discussing the reframing of how Auburn is approaching paying the guys, handling NIL, handling rev share, and all of that. And I think it did kind of confirm a lot of our assumptions, and a lot of these deals going to be incentive-based, which is good. But it is going to be a shock to the system. And when you look at what Amaris Williams and his tenure has done at Auburn, he was an impactful guy in the rotation a year ago, sure. But just reading between the lines, like, he probably wanted to be paid like a proven SEC starter. Heck, he may have been already being paid like a proven SEC starter, and he hasn't. He hasn't been an SEC starter because he played behind Keldrick Falk. And look, if you wanted to be a guy that could be considered to be a top 10 draft pick, because that's what Keldrick is doing, he would have had that opportunity to play that exact same role in the exact same system. And he said no. And let's think back. I mean, Amaris has entered the portal before. Masterclass by DJ Durkin for bringing him back. You have to assume in bringing him back, they made the pitch for more money. And also, you get to be behind Keldrick, and then you can be the guy after. And he must not care that much about being the guy after Keldrick. So I think with a lot of these deals that we're seeing, these guys they were probably overpaid. They were probably overpaid guys. And so this staff coming in and saying, hey, yeah, like, you're good. We'd love to have you, but we can't pay you for production that you didn't have. And I think that's important, but there is going to be a shock to the system here if that's how this is unfolding, the way it appears that it's unfolding. And look, we've said on this show and several other times that there's a million different reasons why a kid enters the portal. Maybe just wants a fresh start. Maybe proximity to home is an aspect to this. Maybe he wants to just follow a position coach, which I don't think makes a ton of sense in this scenario, but still, like, there are reasons why guys could want to leave outside of just money. But man, does this one look like it's just money. And we talked about this. Was it yesterday? Gosh, this week has been a blur when we went live and talked about Malik Blockton for a few minutes. So Amaris, I think, is a versatile, valuable, impactful player, but it has to make sense. And this is where we just have to speculate and say, okay, what he wanted didn't match the value that Alex Golesh and this Auburn coaching staff and front office said that position and his production is worth. Because with a guy like that, there is going to be some projection involved. It's proven that role can be productive in this defense because Keldrick is about to be, a first-round draft pick. That seems to be the assumption. All the mock drafts have him very, very high, first half of the first round. That's going to be appealing when they go to the transfer portal, where they're going to say, hey, you see 15? They may put 15 on the phone. I mean, nobody loves Auburn more than Keldrick Falk. And I think that's going to be a cool process to see okay, hey, we want you to come in and be this guy because it's been proven that you can get to the league by playing an edge position at Auburn. Even if it's a guy that's smaller, which I don't think Amaris and Keldrick's replacement is going to be one of those smaller guys, but I think whoever plays edge, they're going to have to go there too. And we'll talk about some of the guys that are going to be impacted by this, like Jared Smith and Joe Phillips, JJ Falk. We'll see. I mean, those are the guys at edge that are still kind of on the roster. But to me, this one makes a ton of sense. I hate it because Amaris is a super valuable defender, but with everything that's kind of come out about this and Justin Hokanson reframing the mindset of this very eloquently on his site, I think this makes I think it makes a ton of sense. I think it makes a ton of sense. So I want to talk about Jamonta Waller because this one's different, right? This is a different thing. And I kind of wonder if we see more guys like Waller enter the portal in the coming days. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. If you ever feel like your money just disappears each month, look, it can happen fast, whether you subscribe to too many subscriptions or you order out too much, or hey, with Christmas and all the Christmas shopping and the gifts, it's easy to lose track. But it's significantly easier with Rocket Money as far as managing your finances. Rocket Money helps get you the clarity to track every dollar and stay in control of your finances, because managing your money, it shouldn't feel like a second job. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Of course, we all know FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. We finally have a line for Auburn and Purdue. It feels like it's been forever since Auburn's played basketball. The line opened, I checked earlier, Auburn was a 9.5-point dog. Purdue an 8.5-point favorite now. So that line has moved 1 point in favor of Auburn. Take that for what it's worth. In fact, before the line was out, this is right around the line that we projected here on Locked On Auburn. Live betting, the way to go with FanDuel right now, especially with games kind of happening so quickly. You can get in on the action as well as real things develop. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Jamonta Waller planning to enter the portal. And look, here's the disclaimer. These are all just reports. Hayes Fawcett, usually the players go directly to Hayes Fawcett. So pretty strong sourcing there. But once again, this is an intention to enter the portal. They are not a fit. No one can enter the portal until January 2nd. And then, of course, if somebody does enter the portal, they can come back. Amaris Williams is an example of that last offseason. Jamonta Waller, a guy that we thought would be really, really talented, athletic, but never really found the field. Had I think it was a foot injury. And I mean, I don't know if it impacted his athleticism or his ability to play or not. Like, he just was never really a factor. And you kind of ask the question, like, how many of these guys that were never a factor several years at Auburn, like, is there any way that they thought they could make the same amount of money with a new staff coming in? Like, I think there's a lot of leverage that was probably lost on those guys' end, because with a guy like Waller, I don't know what his market is. He was really solid coming out of high school, but if Auburn had got a guy going into year 3 and he had never played, but he was a highly touted guy and he had, surgery, I think it was the end of his freshman year. Like, is that a guy we would be excited about as a fan base? We'd probably say, like, okay, like, the potential's there, but aren't we all kind of tired of saying that? Aren't we all kind of tired of saying, yes, this potential can be there at Auburn? So I think it makes sense. I wish Waller nothing but the best wherever he ends up, but this is another one that I think makes a ton of sense. So these two departures both make sense for different reasons, and they're both fine. But it does, whenever you have multiple guys leave from the same room, position group, it does amplify it a little bit. And so when you look at edge, I mean, you're already losing you're already losing Keldrick and Keyron and Chris Murray. Now you lose Amaris Williams and Jamonta Waller. All right, so then you look around, it's like, okay, Jared Smith, small sample size, but as a true freshman last year, truly exceptional. Truly exceptional. I expect him to gain a ton of weight this offseason, and then he may develop into your strong side end, or he can be, that buck, that edge guy. Regardless, though, of what he develops into, you're going to need more guys in that room. And we've talked about this. We've talked about positional importance. Not all positions are created equal. Edge, pass rusher, that's towards the top. When you talk about expensive, well-paid positions, you see those guys get drafted very high. That's why Keldrick's going to go very high in the NFL draft, because of the upside of being able to rush the passer. If you have an elite pass rusher, it changes the game. And Auburn may have one with Jared Smith. Jared Smith may be one of the guys where it's like, yeah, we're fine making sure you're happy and financially compensated. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But somebody saying in the chat right now, Irish Saint saying Jared Smith might be gone too. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. He could be. He certainly could be. And then that becomes a room that you have to overhaul. And that is also a room that is going to be tricky, because once again, that is one of the more expensive positions when you talk about the high end. Could this also be a position, though, where DJ Durkin is tasked to do something differently when he evaluates guys in the portal versus what he did a year ago? Possibly. But also hearing some of the scuttlebutt coming out of Auburn's camp of all of these guys and how overpaid they were, they may be fine. They may be fine because they're getting so much money off the books from guys that weren't entirely productive consistently during their time here. And yes, they are still losing really good players. Once again, I'll throw all the disclaimer that we kind of joked about yesterday, where yes, this is just reports that they plan to enter the portal. The portal, you cannot enter the portal yet. And if you do enter the portal, you can come back. Yes, I get it. Like Malik Blockton and Jay Crawford, those are good players. Everyone else, I think it makes a ton of sense why Auburn presumably is saying, yes, we can't get to your number. We can't get to it. And some of the stuff I heard with Blockton, it's like, okay, I guess I get it. But interior defensive lineman, that's a pretty expensive position too. I mean, you just never know. You just never know. So to me, edge is going to be tricky. That's an important position. Can't stress that enough. I mean, as far as like the pecking order of like highest paid, like quarterback is going to be up there. Offensive tackle is going to be up there. Edge rusher is going to be up there. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'll address a few comments or questions. TWK says Arnold is saving us $1.9 million alone. That's not the exact number I heard, but I think it's I don't think you're too far off. I think you're in the ballpark there. But regardless, it's going to be, yeah. And if Auburn's next quarterback is Byron Brown, what does he get? I would assume it'd be less than that, but it may not be. It may not be. But regardless, you can still move that quarterback money to that. For sure. For sure. Yep. Jay Lester and my mom saying they just want winners. And I think that's a big argument that Daryl made on this morning's Locked On Auburn, and then Brad Law made it on this morning's Village Vice. I think bringing the South Florida guys over is going to be a big part of this, because they know his process. What does Golesh say over and over and over again? Process-oriented. He's process-oriented. And you want that to trickle down to his players, for sure. For sure. Sam Hancock, who wouldn't know how to wear a sleeve even if he had any, says, Zach, do you think this is a sign of Golesh saying, I am the law and players don't run the program anymore? Sure. I think it's certainly part of that. This is going to be the way Alex Golesh is going to run things is different than the way Hugh Freeze ran things. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. And I think some of that's going to impact recruiting. I think Hugh Freeze really put a lot of stock in having highly ranked recruiting classes. And I'm not saying that Auburn's going to struggle in recruiting or struggle in portal classes or anything like that. But I do think it's going to look different. Instead of going for every high 4-star that has interest in you, I do think they're going to look and evaluate and say, okay, but does this guy fit what we want to do? Does this guy fit what we want to do? And they're having that discussion about some really good players that are reportedly planning to enter the portal when it opens on January 2nd. Jay Crawford, Malik Blockton, Amaris Williams, Perry Thompson, Malcolm Simmons. It's like, do these guys fit what we want to do both on the field and off the field? That's the question. And I don't know if that question was entirely thought out under the previous regime, but yeah, for sure. For sure. Hummer saying, let's calm down and not act surprised. It's all business, next man up. Yeah, no, I think this whole show has been about how it does make sense for two different reasons, right? Amaris making sense for, okay, I think his perceived value, and I'm just basing all of his actions so far with what we've seen as far as entering the portal, then coming back as a ploy to, we assume, use that as leverage to get a raise, and now to go on and presumably make more money. Okay, great. Go make money. I don't know if this coaching staff is going to pay you for production that you have not produced. So for sure. Buddy saying all these discussions are exactly why NIL has ruined college football. I'm not going to say it's ruined it, but these conversations are weird. They're weird. I'm not used to them yet, especially like early on at NIL. We kind of acted like that wasn't all of it, and now it's just out in the open. Yeah. Jay Lester saying Signetti brought a bunch of JMU with him, and look how it worked out. I can see the same here at Auburn under Golesh. 100%. 100%. Daryl's example of that this morning was Vanderbilt with, him bringing Kill and obviously Pavia, and there were a few other coaches, a few other players over with him to Vandy. Yeah, that's part of it. Not the exact same because Clark Lee wasn't the head coach, but still bringing a group of people that are used to winning at their level of competition over. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Pre-flying says, haven't produced, but we're letting SEC talent walk away to replace it with G5 kids is not really the best move in the SEC, in my opinion. Yeah, I guess, but like, here, let's do this together. Let's do this together. If you want to say that about Amaris, like, yeah, that's fine. And if you want to say that about Jay, that's fine. But like with Perry, and look, I really like Perry. But if we talked about a guy who had 17 catches for 154 yards this season, if he came to us in the portal, what would we say? We'd say, oh, okay, maybe he could be a depth piece. Malcolm Simmons, I think there would be a clearer argument of like us being able to talk up a guy like Malcolm Simmons. 25 catches this year for 457 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, a lot of it happening in the last 2 games. I think we'd be able to look at that and say, like, oh, okay, he peaked late. He wasn't used right until the last 2 games of the season. Like, I get that. But at least there has been production, and at least there have been guys that are used to what Golesh is expecting. I think it's got to be a merging of the two. And we don't know how many USF guys are going to come with him as far as players. A lot are speculated, a lot are rumored, and I'm expecting a lot, to be clear. And by a lot, I mean like 5 or 6. I don't think you're taking over the roster. And the 2 guys that we talked about on this morning's Locked On, Lee, I forgot his first name, the nickel / slot corner, and then Gaskin, the safety. Like, I don't think we're bringing those guys in to start. I don't think those guys are starting over Fagans or Champ Anthony, assuming everybody stays. But they could be a part of the culture. So I get the concern, though, and I've got some questions, right? Like, I wouldn't want the full South Florida roster to replace the full Auburn roster. But I think we all know that that's not what's going to happen. But if you can take strengths, and if they win position battles, they're better than what we've got. And if they don't, am I back? Am I back? If somebody in the chat could let me know if my connection was back, that'd be great. That'd be super, super helpful. All right, I'm back. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, friends. Thank you. So, I mean, we will leave it with that, though. I obviously there's guys that we would like to stay, but if it doesn't make sense for this coaching staff, you have to assume and trust that it doesn't make sense for Auburn. And so we'll see what happens with that over the coming weeks. I anticipate a lot of announcements this weekend. And of course, we'll if it's a time of the day where I'm able to get up here and record some quick content for y'all, I will do just that. Y'all are funny. I hit the portal for a second. Just for a second. I just wanted to test the waters just for a second. No, I'm joking. Please like the video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.